So with interviews, right? I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I struggled, okay? I struggled with interviews my first go round. And it happens. It's okay. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little bit of an anxious person. And whenever I have interviews, I get so anxious, but I always make sure that I'm very prepared. So once I do step into the room, all the anxiety just goes away because I know I am going to be able to do my best. Your interview, especially with software engineering, will most likely be a whiteboard question. And what that looks like is you and an interviewer, you are posed a question that you therefore have to write a coding solution to with a pen or a marker on a whiteboard. I don't know how it looks like right now due to COVID, but it's probably still maybe through WebEx or Skype or Zoom where they pose you a question and maybe you're sharing your screen and typing out code. Either way, it is testing your on your feet skills to see how you problem solve. So I know it sounds like a lot of pressure to just do that with somebody looking over your shoulder. But if you are, keyword, prepared, then you will ace this interview. You're going to crush it. So your task at hand is not just to put a solution on the board. No. They're doing way more than this, seeing if you can figure it out. There are a couple things that they're looking at. Number one, do you know what you're doing? That's the biggest one. Do you know what you're doing? Number two, can you effectively communicate what you are doing? Okay? And number three, can you expand on what you did do? So let's break those down even more. So first things first, when you are walking into this interview, make sure that you know the language you're going to use. I mean like really know it. I don't mean like kind of know it. I don't mean like, I mean like you got it down packed. So for example, I'm not going to go into an interview, right, and start writing code in C++. I'm not doing that. I'm going to go to any interview probably using Python. In some cases, I might use Java, but I'm equally as proficient, but I'm most comfortable in Python. Do what you're most comfortable in. So it could be way more easier for you to flow through this interview. Interviewers cannot read your mind. And that's so simple, like common sense, like duh, Jada. Interviewers can't read your mind. They can't read what you're thinking. But I don't know about y'all, but for me, whenever I'm approached with a problem or I have to write out code, I have so much in my head to the point where sometimes I don't effectively communicate what I'm doing. In interviews, you have to do that. Like you have to communicate what you're writing down. You have to communicate your thought process. Once they give you the problem, like that first couple of exchanges, it is now your job to interpret the problem, but interpret it out loud. Like say what you think they're asking you to do out loud. That starts off a nice dialogue so you can keep flowing in conversation while you are attempting your interview problem. The number one misconception is that people think they have to jump right into writing code. No. Please do not jump right into writing code because trust me, you probably do not have the problem all the way digested. You probably don't know what steps to take just yet. And even if you do, you still want to be able to communicate that you understand what the problem is before you get started. So once you got the problem digested and once you write it down, then it's continuing the communication is kind of the hard part, but you want to talk through what you're doing. Like if you're writing down a line of code at a time, maybe explaining what you're doing before you write it, or write it and then explaining after what you were attempting to do. And what your interviewer will most likely do is either confirm that you're going on the right direction or might emphasize or throw you a bone or give you a hint about what direction you should take. Y'all, don't be afraid to ask questions. And I know that sounds so backwards because it's an interview. Like, how am I asking questions during an interview? But it all depends on the way you kind of frame your question. You don't want to be like, I don't know how to do this. Like, that's a no-go. You don't want to say anything like, can you do this for me? No. And I know that sounds like common sense, but you never know. You never know. But you want to kind of frame your questions as, I'm having a hard time understanding how to approach this. Would you mind helping me out a bit here? And they'll probably give you a very simple answer. They might not go too much in depth, but it's for you to be an active listener, hear what they're saying to you, and then continue moving on. Imagine you're standing like this, scratching your head and all that stuff, and then the interviewer's looking at you like, what is this girl thinking? Like, is she okay? Or are they okay? Like, you don't want to have them in any state of confusion at all. So please make sure that you are communicating all the way through. Even if it's uncomfortable, make sure you do interview prep with a friend or do it with a colleague or a professor so you can get comfortable with talking about what you plan on doing in a problem. So I will give y'all this really, really good little tidbit I got from an interviewer in one of my interviews that I did, which I didn't do too well on. And this was way more of a learning experience for me. It's like my first go round at really applying the tech internships. So I was fairly new at this and he could tell. So he gave me this great time breakdown that you could keep in the back of your mind while you are having an interview. So your first 5 minutes should be interpreting the problem, taking all that time to just write down everything in regards to the problem, maybe breaking down the problem in bits and pieces and just making it digestible for you. The next 15 minutes should be attempting the problem. You should be just hacking at it and going and going and going and continuing to have that dialogue with the interviewer. The next 10 minutes is really crucial because it all involves expanding on what you have. Your solution might not be the most optimal solution, but if you do have a solution on the board and your interviewer recognizes that this is like correct in some cases, then they're going to work with you to make sure that you can get to the next point of making it the most optimal solution. This is when your ears need to be tapped in. I mean, like all the way tapped in. And you need to be able to decipher what they're telling you and be able to output it onto the board. So the problem that you will get in your interview will most likely rely on your knowledge of data structures and algorithms. If you want a video about data structures and algorithms and how they look at interviews or anything of the sort, leave a comment down below because I would love to make a video about that as well. And like I said before, your initial solution might not be the most optimal solution, and that is okay. As long as you're attempting the best solution in your head, that's what you should do. And even if you are really, really stuck and you know a brute force solution, then write that down as well. But be able to have an open mind when hearing some feedback from your interviewer so you can expand or revise your current solution. And that just shows how you work with teams, how quick on your feet you are, and if you could take learning or you could take direction well. So be able to actively listen to your interviewer, expand on your solution, and give it your best shot. Because remember what I said at the beginning, your task at hand is not just to have a solution on the board. If you hit those 3 points, which was to do what you know, effectively communicate what you're doing, and expand on your solution, then I know for certain that you got that job. And at that point, it's going to be your choice of where you want to go. Do you want to go to Google? Do you want to go to Facebook? Do you want to go to Microsoft? I mean, anywhere. It's going to be in your hands. I will say one of my best interviews, I didn't even get to finish my optimal solution, but I hit all those points and I knew that at the end, I put my best foot forward and then I got the job. We went from attempting the problem, I finished my problem. Afterwards, we continued talking about my experiences and his experiences. I started asking questions to him, and post-interview questions are also so great because you get to learn more about your interviewer, because 9 times out of 10, they actually work at the company that you're applying to. And who doesn't want to hear more about experiences of those who work in the position that you in the future want to work for? We were talking so great and we were having such a good conversation that at the end, we were talking about seafood. I know that sounds so crazy, but obviously arguing that seafood on the East Coast is way better than seafood on the West Coast, and he agreed at the end. But that's how dynamic we were. So you want to be able to have experiences like that in your interview. I mean, really captivating experiences, not overwhelming ones, not highly anxious ones. Being able to hit those 3 points, I'm telling you, you have the cards in your deck to go anywhere you want. Those are the tips and tricks that I've used throughout my experiences interning at Microsoft and Facebook and just applying and all around. If you have made it this far, you are one determined person, and I know that if you apply these tips today, that you will be a great applicant at any company of your choice. Make sure to give this video a like and make sure that you subscribe. And as always, stay blessed. I hope you have a great day, and I see you in the next one. Bye.